with me, Owolabi Tosin.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Tosin. Thank God it's Friday.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And remember, we're live on Facebook, and also at 9:30 we shall actually open our phone line where you can call us and let us know what your feels are concerning the stories that are trending on the papers this morning. And I'll be starting with the Friday Leadership newspaper. No going back on solidarity nationwide protest. This is coming from the Labour Union. And Alero, security experts seek stiffened punishment for suspended Zamfara emir. And detail of the story can be found on page 6 of the Friday Leadership newspaper. And to curb the rising insecurity, federal government plans ban on Okada and mining activities nationwide, with the rider moves against logistics suppliers, financiers of terrorism, and bandits. Blames intelligence negligence for the Kuje prison attack. 2 escapees re-arrested in Adamawa and Benue. And terrorists kill 5 policemen, 3 others in Castina, with detail found on page 4 of the Friday Leadership. And to see this big story on the leadership actually caught my attention, because in a way for us to actually reduce the rate of insecurity in the nation, the federal government is actually, planning to ban Okada. And I remember you earlier on, when the ban of Okada was, signed, in Lagos, you were agitating for the fact that you think it's the right step forward, because if we look at the means at which insecurity is, and even the bandits, if you check the way the routes they use in the village, they mostly use the bikes, the Okada, to transport maybe people that they actually kidnap or stuff like that. So I actually think that the federal government really needs to be applauded for this step. And also, if you look at the illegal mining activities that are going on in the nation, you know that we're doing quite a lot of havoc in various parts, not to talk about the erosion that is taking place there. And we've been looking at flooding also that is, occupying some resident areas in the country. So I think the federal government needs to be applauded for this right step, even though I know that possibly the reason why, even especially those who are into mining activities, while I was reading the news, they said that if the federal government moves forward to banning these mining activities, that will give rise to an increase in insecurity. And I asked, what would the possibly reason be? Is it because they feel that they will be idle? But I believe there are other ways. You can actually register to be part of the mining activities, so that we know that this mining is legal, not illegal. Because if you check most of the ports, they live at the end of the day, they are causing this erosion, not talk about the danger to plants that are being planted and other things. So I think the federal government really needs to be applauded for this step.
Yes, Sele, before I respond to this, I would like our viewers to know that we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Do well to drop your comments, and 9:30 phone lines will be opened for your call. And also concerning this, yesterday Mr. President met with security chiefs. That's a different security chief, speaking about the issue of insecurity and how it can be curbed in our nation. And now we see that where the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, hinted to the newsman concerning the meeting of the National Security Council, that's NSC, where they result in banning Okada in the different states, that's the 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. And we know prior to this, Okada have been banned in some states because of the mayhem some Okada riders have caused in those communities. We know the lynching, the death of David Upo, that's the sound engineer, who died as a result of the clash between Okada riders. And we had several issues where Okada riders have caused dangers and even different plight, and even result to death of people. And now we see that this will be banned in this 36 states. I would say it's a good development, but before this Okada can be banned, there should be provision of something that these people can resort to. I know when Okada was banned on the plateau, on the major roads, they had to resort to the tricycle riding, and we had so many tricycle riders even in the state. But we also had people who rode this tricycle without registering them. So there should be something, although we see that now there's registration of the tricycles even in the state, in different states, but there should be something that, because there should be a prior opportunity opened opportunity for these people. We saw where the illegal miners are saying if they are banned from illegal mining, there's going to be there's going to be an outbreak of insecurity, because they will have to result in insecurity in disrupting other vices, disrupting the peace in the state. And I would say there should be something that will be created for those people, other businesses that these people can easily lay their hands to. And this brings my attention back to the issue of our electricity, the issue of the petrol scarcity, because there are people who use all these things like the tricycle riders. There are people who do this, the cab. There are people who do different businesses using the fuel, and is also, you see, the transportation businesses also, you need the fuel. Even there are little businesses you do at home that you still need this fuel. But with this scarcity of fuel, and even the power gridlock, that's the electricity gridlock, the outbreak, the blackout, you see that it is trying to minimize the activities of people, and it's limiting people from being like an entrepreneur of themselves. So we see that there should be other opportunities, and also the community and the economy should be favorable for people, because if Okada is being banned, there are people who make their daily bread out of riding tricycle Okada. There are people who feed their families, they feed even their extended families through this business. Then after this business is being banned, what opportunity again do they have for themselves? What other opportunity do they have to provide for themselves and even provide for their families? This narrows back to even opportunity, job creation. We saw yesterday where NDDC, the minister, said that we have the illegal like when the job creation illegal, you get people, you give people money. You give people have to pay before they get job. And we saw where a caller yesterday called and said even in the police service, you see, before you can get the job, you have to pay money. Then you see that people that have the zeal for this job are not given this opportunity, because if I don't have this money to pay for my job, how do I get this job? And we need to look into all those things. If portals are being opened, it should not be limited to some specific set of people who knows who. It should not be limited to just those kind of people. It should be open to everybody, because even among these Okada riders, we have people who are qualified, we have people who are fit and suitable for different jobs. So if opportunities are opened, opportunities are created, if we really want to curb this issue of insecurity, to stop this Okada ban, then there should be other opportunities that these people can easily put their fingers on. And even we should help with grants for small businesses, small scale businesses. Then the economy should be favorable for those people, so that they can venture into other businesses, so that we won't have this outbreak of insecurity. We will not have this issue of insecurity taking over, despite the fact that it's a thing of concern to us. We have this issue of insecurity all over our country, all over the state. But we should look into, when we ban this Okada, there should be something these people can easily put their fingers on.
Fall back to exactly, Tosin. We're still on the Friday leadership. Other story here: first subsidy to go up 6.72 trillion naira in 2022. 3.09 trillion naira budget deficit recorded in 4 months. The federal government has proposed a sum of 6.72 trillion to settle subsidy on the premium motor spirit, otherwise known as petrol, for the year 2023. This is contained in figures on the performance of the 2022 budget between January and April 2022, released yesterday. And you can read detail of that on page 7 of the Friday Leadership newspaper. The new NNPC federal government yet to agree on modality for the revenue remittance, with detail on page 23. Alleged 109 billion naira fraud, EFCC to arrange the ex-accountant general today. So we'll keep our fingers crossed to know what will be the outcome. So you can read more of that on page 13. ICPC prosecute 3,657 civil servants over the IPPIS infractions, with detail on page 10. And Oyeyemi gets showers of praises for reforming the FRSC. You can read more of that on page 6. We also have a picture story here right on the front page of the leadership, so you can do well to get the leadership and read detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
And on Daily Independent newspaper on the divestment, we have federal government urges indigenous firms to take over IOC's assets. EFCC to arraign former AGF, others today over 109 billion naira alleged scam. And the former Accountant General Ahmed Idris will be charged before Justice A.O. Adeyemi Ajayi of the Federal Capital Territory High Court, Abuja, on 14 count charge of stealing and also terminal breach of trust in tune to 109 billion naira, 485,572,691.9 naira. So we just hope that something will be done about this, and this money, if recovered, it should be narrowed to the right places, because we need to develop, we need infrastructure. Looking at the educational sector, looking at our health sector, looking at tackling insecurity, we need infrastructure, and we need to develop all those places. Looking at the refineries, we need to create our own refinery and create more opportunities for other people. If we are trying to shut the door of one place, then other doors should be opened for people for employment. So we just hope that he will face his court case this morning. We just hope that this money will be recovered and used the right way, even in developing our nation. The big story on Daily Independent: criticism trails federal government's plan to ban Okada to check insecurity. Respondent says government bereft of ideas to tackle terrorism. Aregbesola says heads to roll after submitting Kuje attack report. IPOB places 2 million naira bounty on Imo Ibibuagu commander, says there is no seat at home today. ICPC to prosecute 3,657 civil servants over IPPIS, and this is from HOS. Reps asks BPE to halt sale of 5 power plants. JAMB releases cutoff points for 2022 admission, and for universities the cutoff mark is 140, while for College of Education and even polytechnics it is 100. And this was released through the Minister of Education Adamu after some meeting with provost of polytechnics and provost of polytechnics and rectors and even the chancellors of different universities. So hoping that this cutoff mark will be looked upon, but we need, before this cutoff mark can be looked upon, our educational sector needs to be reformed, and we need the students to go back to school, and we need the ongoing issue, the pending issue between the federal government and ASU to be resolved, because if it's not resolved, even if people write this JAMB, how do they get their admission? And we know about the illegal admissions, that people get admissions illegally from JAMB and even from the school, and after graduation, when it's time for them to go for service, then they have to go back and forth on concerning the admission. So we need all these things to be resolved, even as the cutoff mark of the university and even College of Education and Poly have been reduced. Then we should look into the ongoing issue, the pending issue for schools to be for schools to come back, and the issue between ASU and the federal government to be resolved. Then we should not have issues of this coming up again. We should not have issues of this ASU strike coming up any longer. It should be resolved once and for all. Then they should tackle the issue of illegal admission. We know where JAMB is saying they want admissions to come only from JAMB, not from universities. So whatever it is, they have to resolve it among themselves. So we'll not have people talking about illegal admissions coming and having the issue to face this issue when it's time for you to go for service to serve your fatherland.
So I'd like to add a little to that, because immediately I saw the cutoff mark, something ran through my mind to ask, what is the reason for reducing the cutoff mark? I clearly remember back then when we were in school, the cutoff mark for you, if you're going to study arts, I think was 180, science has to be 200 and above, and then poly was 160. Now, what we bring to mind is that why did they reduce the cutoff mark? Are we trying to bring down educational standard? Because these are questions people will ask. What prompted the Minister of Education to actually reduce the cutoff mark? Just like you said, these are part of the reason why ASU is on strike, because they said admissions have to come from the schools, not from JAMB, because sometimes you see JAMB will give you an admission and the tertiary institution actually having an issue with the admission that's been given to you. So I think before we go further, even though I believe the cutoff mark is already there, but we need to go back and, just like you said, we're tired of hearing so money has been given for infrastructure. Of what use is the infrastructure when there's nobody to live in those to actually use those infrastructure? Of what use is the buildings? Of what use is, reforming the refineries when we do not have people who work there or make use of it? So I think we need to go back to the drawing board again to actually check our educational standard, because just like we have been saying this, I think we've hammered this so much. We need to go back and check our educational standard. It's not just about reducing the cutoff mark. It's just like trying to make it easy for people. Yes, it's easy for you to get into the university, but when you go there, what else do they have to offer the student? So I think this is something the federal government also need to go back, especially the minister of education, the ministries. They really need to check this educational sector, and then we can actually know that whatever the reason is for them reducing the cutoff mark is for other people to get admissions into the school.
Yes, thank you very much, Sele. Still on Daily Independent, passengers vandalized Dana Air properties at Lagos Airport. The rider says airline commences operational audit ordered by NCAA. 6.7 trillion naira fuel subsidy for 2023 will deny country capital projects, and this is from the federal government. Says debt service surpasses revenue by 310 billion naira in 4 months. The last story on the Daily Independent, Adeleke raises the alarm over plot to loot and divert government assets. Details can be found in page 4, and that's all on the Daily Independent newspaper.
Thank you, Tosin. Let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. The first story, UTME Ekiti Indigenes scores the highest as 378,639 candidates score above 200. JAM approves 140 cutoff marks for universities, 120 for polytechnics. Return 29 billion naira to the federal government account. You can read detail of that on page 28. And on running mate, aggrieved governors not leaving PDP. This is coming from Autumn, the governor of Benue State. Article to meet Wike to pacify him, he says. You can read detail of that on page 8. And on the international world, Joe Biden tests positive for COVID-19. Even though it's mild, we wish him a quick recovery. And on 2023, CBN insists it's illegal to buy dollar with naira for campaign. With detail on page 6. INEC to publish particulars of candidates for 2023 state elections tomorrow. So you can keep your fingers crossed concerning the particulars of this candidate. You can read more of that on page 5. The big story, which is on the first quarter of 2022, debt servicing exceed revenue. Federal government projects 6.72 trillion naira fuel subsidy for 2023. And the writer says Nigeria imported 202.9 million metric tons of petrol from 2015 till date. The Nigerian Navy tells the reps. We detailed on page 6 and 7. And on Sheitima's unveiling, clergymen not big names in Christendom. Tinubu, this is a reply to those clergymen that were there during the unveiling. Well, we keep our fingers crossed and we hope that more will come out of this. You can read more of that on page 8. Shippers Council meet Maritime Workers Union, with the rider fails to convince workers to resume work at APM terminals. With detail on page 7. And on terrorist attack, federal government mulls nationwide ban on motorcycles and mining activities. House of Reps halts sales of 5 power plants, says federal government in breach of Privatization Act, detailed in page 30. The picture story here, we can see the President Muhammadu Buhari, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Erabo, and the service chiefs after the National Security Council meeting at the presidential villa in Abuja on Thursday. And we hope that whatever the outcome of that meeting is, we could actually see it in the intelligence and also that insecurity will be reduced. It's not about having series of meetings, but we need to see actions on ground. And we know that, yes, that meeting was meaningful at the end of the day. Yes. And that's all on the paper.
Thank you, Sally. On Nigeria News Direct, Oyigbo Abado passengers train to begin operations first quarter 2023. 109.4 billion naira fraud. EFCC arraigns sacked Accountant General Idris. 3 orders today. While on terrorism, Nigerians knock federal government over proposed ban on Okada operations. Amid fuel price hike, federal government proposes 6.7 trillion naira subsidy for 2023. Sanwo-Olu promises best hospitality as world converges on Lagos for cultural and tourism fairs. NDLEA arraigns man 28 for allegedly trafficking 4.1 kilogram of cocaine. At the back page, we can see Femi Adesina's column. That's all on the Nigerian News Direct.
Thank you, Tosi. Let's take a look at the world of business from national economy. Federal government proposed 6.72 trillion naira for the fuel subsidy in 2023. Spent 773.63 billion naira on capital projects as recurrent growth 3.2 trillion naira, with detail on page 4. The big story here: forex challenges, absent of coordinating body limit cocoa export potential as farmers lost 60 billion naira annually to poor practices. And you can read more of that on page 4, especially to our farmers, so that you can record more profit rather than loss on your farms. Number of operating airlines in Nigeria drops to 8. You can read more of that on page 5. BUA Cement pays 88 billion naira dividend to shareholders. Vessels stranded, containers trapped as dock workers shut the Lagos port. Detailed on page 5. We also have a picture story here, so you can do well to get the national economy and read any of the stories that's of interest to you.
And on the New Telegraph, government to fund fuel subsidies with 6.72 trillion naira in 2023. Target aggregate 17.99 trillion naira expenditure, 8.46 billion naira revenue. And an audit here, NCAA vows to ground more airlines. ASU strike, shelf plan protest, federal government appeals to NLC. JAMB pegs varsities, cut-off mark at 140. Internal democracy still baying over electoral progress. This is coming from INEC as they say 334 pre-poll cases pending in courts. While National Grid collapsed again, this is from the TCN, reps probe NNPC, oil coils sharing pact since 1990. Alleged 109 billion naira fraud, EFCC to arraign ex-AGF Idris and others. Alleged perjury, court Uke's suit seeking Tinubu's trials. Details can be found in page 8 and 28 of the New Telegraph. First quarter debt servicing commitment surpasses revenue by 310 billion naira, and this is from the federal government as they gulped 1.94 trillion naira and 1.63 trillion naira income generated. Nigeria's GDP to slip into recession by year-end, 22 million Nigerians unemployed, and this is coming from Nasima. Federal government mulls ban on Okada and mining, and FCTA needs over 21 billion naira to rehabilitate National Assembly complex. Killings, abductions, clergy under siege, Khan cries out, says action provocative and heinous, wonders why Catholic priests are major target, insists unknown cleric represented Khan at Shetima's unveiling. Most politicians worse than bandits and Boko Haram. This is still from CSN. While on IPPIS, 3,657 civil servants undergoing prosecution by ICPC, says 61,446 verified. Details can be found in page 5, and there is a study here for those who run night shift, saying human body can't adjust to night shift. Details can be found in page 26. We know that rest is very important. It's very important for you to have time to rest. Even after running through night shift, create time for your body to rest, because with the study here, no matter how you rest, your body can't adjust to night shift, and we still have people who run night shift. You need to make ends meet, you need to put food on your table, and this is still what we still talk about on creating more job opportunities. Jobs should be created. We see where there's where they see over 61,446 Nigerians, 22 million Nigerians are unemployed. What is the federal government doing about this? What is different sectors doing about this issue of unemployment? What is the agency that is charged with issue of employment? What are they doing concerning this issue of unemployment? And now we see that Okada will be banned. What are they going to do about it? Because if we need to curb insecurity, people don't need to be idle. So like we have this saying, we say an idle mind is the devil's workshop. We know that when they're idle, that's when they start thinking of different vices. We saw where people who were apprehended in Nasarawa State concerning the both vote buying and even those thugs that were used in the primaries for the general, that's for the presidential distance. We saw where they said they are idle, they needed money, youths needed money, they were idle, that's why they had to put their hands in different vices that against the ethics of INEC, and even against the ethics of the nation. So we need to engage people in different activities that will keep them busy. Unemployment is really not good. So like it's not something to experience after going through school, after going through the hurdles of education. Then you have to go around looking for job. People stay at home for years not getting job. That's where you see different thoughts keep coming to them. So we need to create opportunities for employment. We need to look into ways people can be employed. Youths can be employed. People don't need to be idle, because they pay tax one way or the other. Our taxpayers' money should be used in developing all these sectors, all these places that are dilapidated. It should be restructured, because when we talk about restructuring, it is very important, because if things are restructured, if sectors are restructured, then we will have to need more hands, more workforce for opportunities, for job opportunities, and people need to be employed, because things are really getting out of hand. The economy is getting out of hand. People need to have things that bring food, bring more income to their tables. That's all on the New Telegraph paper.
Thank you so much, Tosin. Before we move further to other papers, right at this moment, we'd like to take a time out where we open the phone lines and you can call us and let us know what your views are concerning any of the stories. And remember, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Do well to drop your comment and we'll read it live. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. That is still the Dailies on Echo Television in Africa. I'm Sarah Elisha Dasham and Owolabi Tosin have been doing this with me. Thank you so much, Tosin.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, and we've been looking at various stories that have been trending on the paper, from the 6.72 trillion naira that the federal government have proposed for the 2023 fuel subsidy, and also to the cutoff, of marks for school university, which is now 140, and also polytechnic 120, and there have been quite a lot of stories on the papers today. So we'd like you to call us and let us know what your views are. What did you think? How is the educational sector with the strike going on and being the longest so far? So we really like to hear what you have to say about that. But before we move further to other paper, we have a comment on Facebook, and this is coming from Jonah, and he said, "I'm very happy for giving us news headline up Equa TV." Thank you so much, Jonah, for appreciating our effort. Let's move further, and I'll be taking the Metrics newspaper. Alleged perjury, court grant group permission to apply for order compelling IG to investigate Tinubu. JAMB approves the cutoff marks for universities. Polytechnic said NAPTEC no longer acceptable for direct entry. The big story here, the death trap, danger signal ahead. Debt servicing surpasses revenue by 310 billion naira. Federal government record 3 trillion naira budget deficit, subsidy to go up 6.72 trillion naira in 2022. And Atiku have moved to amend fences with Wiki and Autumn. ASU Solidarity protest, Labour Union President fires back at Leah Mohammed, says our right to protest is lawful. Well, I believe it's lawful, but the protest should be done in the right way to avoid hoodlums actually taking advantage of such to cause mayhem in the country. Alleged 109 billion fraud, ex-accountant general Idris to be arraigned by the EFCC tomorrow. And the Abia Poli Governor Ipezu react, set up 6-man task force to restore accreditation within 30 days. Hello, we have a caller from Kafanchan. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning, please go on with your contribution.
Yes, my name is Kumaya Ko,
Okay.
calling from the local government of Bantam, precisely. We are all doing a wonderful job, being us updated with the news headlines. We are very happy to be here as Nigerians. I want to once again commiserate with the entire Ekwa family for the loss of our sister. Has been a great loss to us. We have accepted it in one shape, and we know we will meet her, but we know we will meet her one day. The Dailies, one of the key that concerns me there is the aspect of government to pay tax at 6 something figure, trillion naira. That is very massive. Once we have been objective as a nation, we will know that indeed such money should be used to fix our refinery, and rather than talking about subsidies, we should be talking about making our refineries to work so that all of these issues will be dealt with, and Nigerians can have a reason to have something to be proud of as a nation. It's very heartening to see that we have this kind of huge money spent on subsidies, whereby we have issues around petroleum, around buying fuel, diesel, and lots of other things that stands petroleum. Now for ASU, we don't know why government are still being adamant in issues that concerns our national educational sector. ASU have made a clear demand to let government do the needful, so that our young and teen graduates, our students, will go back to school and begin to contribute to national development. In regards to insecurity, it's a terrible one. We just are praying. But this is a high time for Nigerians to see to engage in better governance, so that we have people who issues that concern the people and take it as a very serious matter, so that we will not have this security issue. I pray that at the end of everything, Nigeria will become great, because we know Nigeria will indeed become great. No matter the challenges, we will get over it, and we pray that ECWA will continue to support Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for that contribution. Right, still on the Metrics newspaper, the last story I'll be taking saying Naira record marginal gain against dollar. You can read detail of any of the stories still on the Metrics newspaper, and that's all on the Metrics newspaper.
Thank you very much, Sally. On the Daily Trust paper, we have on terrorism, federal government mills ban on motorcycles, mining activities nationwide. Reps direct BP to halt planned privatization of 5 power plants. 30 killed, 12 injured in Zaria Kano road crash.
Okay, sorry, Tosi. We have Daniel from Kaduna. Good morning, Daniel. Emmanuel, good morning. Hello, Emmanuel, are you there?
I want to talk about this Okada. See our boys hanging on the street. Yeah. What is talking about this Okada with the federal government is talking about? The ban Okada, see boys were on the street. No job, nothing. Boys do it about it. And continue to talk about this Okada. Huh? For our federal government to talk about this issue. Yes, please. That's my contribution on this morning. I want to do.
Thank you very much.
I think he's still talking about the ban on the Okada. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel from Kaduna.
The big story on the Daily Trust newspaper, federal government projects 6.72 trillion naira petrol subsidy for 2023. 90% of earnings spent on debt services. This is coming from the minister. And revenue challenges saw as debt salary gulp 4.7 trillion naira in 4 months. Despite new petrol price, fuel scarcity returns to Abuja. Bandits kill 5 policemen, 3 others in Katsina. ICPC to prosecute 3,657 civil servants as 61,446 verified on IPPIS. The last story on the Daily Trust, 109 billion naira fraud, suspended AGF Idris for arraignment today. And the picture story here, we can see an empty petrol station as fuel scarcity persists in Abuja, and we can see 3 different petrol stations that are empty because of this fuel scarcity, and they don't have the petrol to give out to people. We just need it to be available for people to have access to good petrol in our nation. That's all on the Daily Trust paper.
Thank you so much, Dosi. We have another comment here that is coming from Yunana, and he said, I'm watching live from Niger State. God bless you guys. Thank you, Yunana, for that contribution. Well, let's go on to the next paper, which is the Vanguard newspaper. I spent 20 years in prison for nothing. And this is coming from a 46-year-old mechanic. You can read more of his story on page 13. 100 million poor Nigerians make up my political structure. This is coming from Peter Ubi. And on admission, JAM stakeholders peg varsity cutoff marks at 140. And on terrorism, federal government must nationwide ban on motorcycle and mining activities, with detail on page 4. RT200 manufacturers launch CBN seek full cover for parallel market forex rate. And the big story, which is on Sheitima's unveiling, Tinubu adamant as reaction trail fake clergies present. The writers following that says, we didn't hire clerics. This is coming from the party source. I didn't invite fake Christian clerics. This is still coming from the APC candidate, the presidential candidate, which is Tinubu. Says upcoming bishops attended event. I was at home in Calabar, even in Abuja, says Apostle Uben. As I haven't been to Abuja in the last 3 months, God will judge them for putting my name on their list. Disclose identities of bishops, reverend fathers, others at unveiling ceremony, Christian body tells the APC. And can have warned APC politicians to stop impersonation. APC members in Kaduna quit party over Muslim ticket. And other stories here say NCAA suspend Dana Air AOC over inability to conduct self-flights. BUA is now household name in SMEN. This is coming from the chairman. You can read more of that on page 19. And federal government record 3 trillion naira deficit in 4 months. Subsidy gulps 1.94 trillion naira. And bandit killed 5 police officers, 4 others in Castina. Aviation fuel crisis, passengers to experience more flight delays and cancellation. We hope this will be verified and rectified very soon. And the last story, which is on 2023, court OK suit seeking Tinubu's trial over alleged perjury. We detailed on page 8, and that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On the Daily Sun, IPOB draws battle lines with Ibubeagu, places 2 million naira bounty on its commander over Awomama's killing, dismisses seat at home today. Political appointments ignite crisis in Imo, and this is from the government of Imo State. Ugwanyi is saying Nigeria needs God intervention to overcome difficulties. And the big story on nationwide ban on Okada looms as federal government also mails ban on mining as police allege plot to attack Kanu. JAMB pegs varsity cutoff mark at 140 and 100 for polytechnics. Says only 378,639 cut out of 1.761 scored above 200. Scrap snap taped for direct entry. And Google have this saying Peter Obi, Buga, Bianca, Putin most trended in first half of 2022. Reps order BPE to halt sale of 5 NDPHC power plants, with details in page 27. And on 2023, be neutral, emulate Jonathan elder statesman tells Buhari. No identified treasury looters will be Rivers State governor. This is coming from Nyesom Wiki.
Okay. Sorry, we have another caller. Hello, Noel from Bauchi. Good morning. Mr. Noel, are you there?
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Please go on. You have 30 seconds.
This is me about you.
Thank you.
I have a little comment about this unveiling the vice president of one of the PC.
Okay, go on, please.
Where the fake clergymen were invited and their facial recognition was not open. CAN should do something about this. We want to know these clergymen. Which church are they from? What is their names? Which state are they from? We need to know. APC cannot come and fake Christianity just like that. After being using a slab word on our face, saying that there's no competent Christian in the north that will be the vice president, and now they are using fake clergymen to represent Christians. So please, I am calling on the CAN to please do something about this. We need to know these pastors. Which church are they from? Where are they from? We need to know their names. Where are they from? We want to know. Thank you.
Thank you. And I already CAN said that yesterday, and investigations are still going on to have the attendance of those bishops that were there. Please go on to say.
Yes, Celine, I would like to say this is the height of it, but we just hope that something will be done about it to reveal the identities of such people. Still on the Daily Sun newspaper, no identified treasury looter will be Rivers State governor. This is coming from Nyesom Wiki as he vows to prosecute Amici and Cole. CAN restates commitment to issuing voting directive to members soon. On census, no religion, ethnicity question, says NPC. And Nigeria to spend big on subsidy next year. Federal government earmarks 6.72 trillion naira, records 3 trillion naira deficit in 4 months. Groups get caught backing to file perjury case against Tinubu. Details can be found in page 5 and a picture story here.
Okay. Hello, Ishaku from Taraba. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, Ms. Ishaku, please go on. You have 30 seconds.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, I want to I'm enjoying your program seriously because I'm in television.
Thank you. Ishaku, are you there? Go on, please.
Concerning this issue of Okada ban, sincerely speaking, it will cause a serious problem in Nigeria. So the government is supposed to measure in this kind of thing that they are doing.
Okay. Okay, I guess
Thank you.
that's...
This is my contribution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ishaku. And the picture story on the Daily Sun newspaper, we can see the chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, and the new resident electoral commissioner for Kogi State, Mr. Hale Gabriel Longpet, in Abuja yesterday. That's all on the Daily Sun newspaper.
And on the Voice of Liberty, INEC to publish particulars for candidate for 2023 state elections today. And Dana Air passenger besiege airline counters demand reform as federal government suspend airline indefinitely. Okay, we have another call. Hello, Steve from Benue. Good morning. Okay, I hope you call us before we round up the show. Still on the Voice of Liberty, reps have moved to stop privatization of the 5 Niger Delta power holding plants. And on terrorism, federal government mills nationwide ban on motorcycles and mining activities. The National Security Council presided over by the President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday. Okay, hello, Mr. Stephen. Mr. Stephen, are you there? Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go on.
Yeah. I want to talk about the arrangement of the enforcement of the APC, that network. The thing is very annoyed of. Our problem is that some people are saying to go there, and that if they can tell us more about these people, because they are the ones that all our eyes are on to. Let's prove that these are so churches, so not out or because in Benue State we are at the end. These are my contribution.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, still on the Voice of Liberty. The National Security Council, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday, announced that it is considering a nationwide ban on motorcycles, popularly known as Okada, and mining activities as part of its strategy to curb terrorist activities, checkmate loopholes, and cut off their sources of funding. And if you take a good look at you could see some picture stories. We can see some terrorists actually on the bike, and which is the reason why it is being banned. So we hope that whatever it is, just like you said, another means of livelihood will be provided for those other Okada drivers. And on 2023, Governor Otom wants Obi to reach out to Atiku, Tinubu, and others. Buhari predict APC 2023 victory at meeting with Shaitima, says, I will speak during handover to Tinubu. And on Osun, Governor-elect Adeleke warns Oyetola against looting of government assets. Debt servicing surpasses revenue as federal government releases first quarter data, 1.94 trillion naira to spend between January to April. And the last one, which is still on the Kaduna train terror attack, victims count down 116 days in captivity. And that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
On the Guardian newspaper, Benue APC candidates protest again against substitution of names on INEC portal. On Muslim ticket, General Overseer threatens fire for inclusion on list of unknown clerics. Sue candidates with false credentials. INEC tells Nigerians tackle 334 pre-election cases. Delta PDP at at a crossroad as two claims Guba candidates. The big story: Nigeria on fiscal cliff as debt service showcases revenue. Petrol subsidy near 6.7 trillion naira as fiscal deficit exceeds 3 trillion naira in 4 months. 78% of federal government spending goes into debt payment, personnel costs. Fresh modalities for NNPC remittance to FAAC on the way, and Labour governors agrees on subsidy removal behind closed doors, says Abba. NMDPRA blames rising global energy costs for price instability, and Nigeria's slow, tedious road to herbal medicine development. The story can be found on page 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Reps opposes sale of 5 power plants, and the last story says chaotic scene at Lagos airport as stranded travelers protest Dana Air closure. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for doing this with me. And
Thank
I
you,
wish you a
Sele.
blessed weekend
And
ahead.
you too.
Yes, and to our viewers, thank you so much for keeping a date with us on the Dailies. Stay tuned for other programs and have a blessed weekend ahead.
Equa TV Africa keeps you lifted 24/7. Fixes your day and makes it fulfilled with messages of hope and salvation.
Sin and the devil, they always walk hand in hand together.
Christ too and the ministry of the Lord also will be promoted.
This aspect of David's experience we read in our passage of consideration brings this situation very near to ours.
He is majestic in holiness. Prayer